All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Matt here. Today we're talking deck lists, all new meta decks using the new cards that came out in Crimson Blaze, which released today, this morning, or I guess last night. We were live. We did a max pack opening. We took a look at all of the new cards. I uploaded my full set review and meta analysis. So if you want to go ahead and check out that video, go check it out. It's the last video I uploaded here on the channel. But today we're going to be going over new meta decks. We have the full set list. We have the full scope here of the available cards, and we're going to be giving you, or I'm going to be giving you my updated, or I guess my initial deck lists for a lot of the new meta strategies that are releasing here in Crimson Blaze. There's a lot to talk about, so not only is this going to be a video highlighting the deck lists, but it's also going to be a bit of like a meta forecast, right? It's probably going to take a few days for us to really, settle into the metagame, understand which decks are best. I think a big way to, I guess for us to figure that out effectively is going to be keeping our eye on the tournament results, specifically the results of our PMPT 13 tournament, which is this Saturday. The results of this tournament are likely going to define the metagame. There's going to be a mix of new strategies, decks and meta strategies from last season, all kind of baked into one, and we'll get sort of a accumulation of all of that data, and I'll use that to tell you which one or which decks are in fact, the best new meta strategy. So anyway, go and register for the tournament. $300 cash in the prize pool, plus a couple of chase cards like a full art Professor's Research and a full art Cyrus. You're definitely going to want to go and register. Almost 200 people already signed up. It is Saturday at noon, December 20th. Link down in the description below to register. So let's just kind of dive right into it. Again, things are likely going to change. This is sort of, again, still my early deck lists. We don't have any tournament results. It comes down to like my personal testing and my own assumptions as to, what the new metagame is going to look like and how I would build these deck lists. So we have 8 decks today that are all utilizing new strategies. So that's the key thing about today's video, is that we're not going to be highlighting any like necessarily updated old strategies. These are all new deck lists using new cards. So keep that in mind. By the way, we're on the way to 50,000 subscribers, so go ahead and subscribe. We checked the data, and about 50% of you guys that are watching my content are not subscribed. So it would mean a lot to me if you guys would just went and smashed that subscribe button and got us to 50,000. That would be absolutely incredible. Anyway, long intro. I apologize about that. We put timestamps in the video anyway. If you're new to the channel, we ramble a lot. We just talk. I don't really edit out anything, and we just kind of go. And then I put the timestamps down below for people to navigate throughout the video if they don't want to hear me yap for a good half hour. But that's what we do, and I enjoy doing it. So the first deck list to take a look at today is going to be Mega Charizard. This is definitely, I think, what's on a lot of people's radars. Now, I think a lot of people are a little bit confused. They're a little bit like, well, Charizard does seem strong, but what's the best way to play it? We're going to go fairly generic in today's deck list here. I do think that there's a lot of strong options for Charizard. The deck list that I'm going to be showcasing today is a bit of a variant of the expert level solo battle deck for Mega Charizard Y, which is just going to be playing Entei with 1 copy of Torkoal. And to be honest, I think the thing with Charizard is that it's not really designed to be able to deal with Oricorio that well. This is a Pokemon that just doesn't, it's not supposed to be a deck that can beat Oricorio very easily, right? It's not that easily built around to beat Oricorio. Most things aren't for that matter. So I think for the most part, if we're playing Mega Charizard Y, we're just going to play it to beat kind of everything that's not Oricorio. And the good thing for Charizard is that it does that quite easily, hitting for 250 damage. And I do like Entei. And the reason why I like Entei for Charizard is for a couple of reasons. You can put pressure on the active. Even if we go up against things like Suicune Greninja or other strategies in this new metagame that aren't Oricorio, Entei with the new energy accelerating Charmeleon is actually going to be able to hit for that full 120 damage pretty early, especially if you go second, you get double Charmeleons, all of a sudden we're turned to hitting for 120. That's a lot of pacing for Entei, and it's one of the strongest, I guess, a frontline Pokemon for the fire typing right now. Now, it's not accelerating any energies to Mega Charizard itself, so that's the kind of the awkward thing about Mega Charizard here. Unless we are playing things like Magby or Moltres, we're not really aiming at accelerating those energies into Mega Charizard. But when you're playing Entei, that's totally fine because Charizard is that backline attacker. Now, this strategy is going to make Charizard a little bit susceptible to being attacked on the bench and then brought up with Cyrus. So that's the one thing that we have to keep our eye on. Things like Suicune Greninja are going to be a little bit difficult. However, again, Entei is kind of a beast. He can kind of do a lot himself. Because we're not playing like Moltres or Magby or anything, I think we have to play double Flame Patch to, sort of compensate those additional energies later in the game if we want to, in fact, get 4 energies onto Charizard. But this is not necessarily a super fast-paced deck. Charmeleon can technically accelerate energies to itself, so there are some scenarios where, maybe Charmander and Charmeleon are in the active spot, and we do get double Charmeleon out going second, and we can attack with Mega Charizard Y pretty early, but we're not playing rare candies in this deck list, and I don't think you really need to, quite frankly. So this is, in all intents and purposes, an Entei deck list. It's kind of built like Suicune and Greninja, except other than, Greninja dealing bench damage and controlling the board with Cyrus, we're just building up a big old Mega Charizard on the bench to finish games, right? It's a 2-3 prize lineup, and we have seen that be successful a little bit in the past. Again, this might not end up being the most meta way to play Charizard. It really just depends on what other decks are prominent in the metagame, and I think that Fire does have some options. We can play Heatmor, we can play Magby, we can play Moltres, we can play Torkoal. So there's a lot of different things we can do with Charizard, but I think in general, the strongest way to play it will be with Entei. But it's likely going to be the same type of stuff that we saw last season with Blaziken, right? So when Blaziken came out, Entei was like right off the bat one of the strongest ways to play it, but it struggled with Oricorio, and it was a big reason why, Entei Blaziken never really cemented itself as a true meta contender last season. It wasn't until, we paired Blaziken with things like Heatmor and Cyrus that give it a little bit extra legs, not only into Oricorio, but to kind of help compete in that bench damage Cyrus race. So Charizard might end up just being kind of the same type of deck, honestly. We just don't know. It would make sense to me to build it just like Blaziken for this new metagame, but again, we're going to just roll with Entei here because it is inherently like the strongest way to play it. And I do think that Entei has more benefits here being paired with Charmeleon than Blaziken did, Entei did being paired with Blaziken, right? Because they didn't get that extra energy acceleration with Charmeleon. So you're really only playing Entei to kind of slow roll and draw through your deck list. Here, Entei can actually be used as an aggressive attacker. So I think that the Entei version of Charizard is a bit better than it was for Blaziken. So that's why I did showcase, or wanted to showcase, this Entei build here. And I do think it does make some sense. And again, we'll just throw in one Torkoal for Oricorio, I guess. One Sabrina. Again, Charizard doesn't really need to be playing Cyrus, but we'll play Sabrina regardless. Double Flame Patch, I think, is necessary. Double Research, double Copycat, consistency reasons. We are playing one copy of Leaf, one copy of May. And you could change these cards around depending on, what decks you're seeing in the metagame, quite frankly. I think that May is definitely a good card, especially in a deck list like this that is playing middle evolutions. We don't really want to miss that Charmeleon. We would rather find our Charmeleon. So whether we have, our Charizards in hand or our Torkoals, we can swap them with May for Charmeleon, which I think is pretty good. And then Leaf, I think Leaf is going to actually make some sense, especially if we do lead Charmander or Charmeleon. Maybe we can, evolve, use Ignition, get double energies on Charmeleon, and then Leaf out without discarding those energies, or we can choose to just, retreat manually, discard those energies if we have Flame Patch available. So this is definitely a bit of a standard version of Charizard, but to be fair, I do think that Charizard is a very standardized deck. It's not anything that's, I don't think there's a lot of leniency in terms of the way that we can build Charizard. So will it be meta? I don't know. I mean, Suicune Greninja exists. I still think the lightning type stuff's crazy. We'll just have to wait and see, but I do like Mega Charizard. So this is sort of the most standard way that I can think of playing it. But again, keep in mind, there's a lot of other ways that we can build this deck, depending on what other decks are prominent in this new metagame. And this weekend's gonna be really fun. Next up is Venusaur. So the more I just really dove into Venusaur, the more I tested it, the more I theory crafted with this Pokemon, the more I realized that this deck kind of just operates like Decidueye. I don't think you can really build Mega Venusaur to deal with a lot of stuff in the metagame, right? Theoretically, you could play like one card in this deck to be able to get around, of course, like Oricorio. So if Oricorio is really popular, let's just say we'll cut one card for the deck for like the non-EX Venusaur, right? Like you could just do that. But the issue with like playing multiple versions of Venusaur, like you could just go like a 1-1 lineup like this. Then this would be totally fine. The thing about Venusaur here is that we're probably just going to play it just like Decidueye, and I think that it is in fact a really, really strong card into things like Suicune and Greninja, just like Decidueye was, right? Because it can just be a single Venusaur in the active spot. Suicune's never going to be able to attack it for much damage. It's got 240 HP. We have Lilies. We have Leaf Cape. This is a deck that literally will just solo Suicune like game after game after game. It's super consistent. with Growth Extract, with Researches and Copycats Pokeballs. One Copycat, one red card, I think is kind of a good combo here. We are playing one copy of blue. The reason I threw blue in here is for Charizard, actually. I figure, you know, if we have the potential to just play blue and live an attack from Charizard, why not do it, right? Or maybe an early Sabrina if they brick, and then we can kind of bring up a Charizard or a Charmeleon to get the first attack off. I think it's interesting. To be fair, I don't think Venusaur is going to do very well into Charizard regardless, but I figured why not throw a blue in there. Again, you could just play maybe a non-EX Venusaur to just, you know, body Oricorios and win that matchup, just like Decidueye does, right? You could play like a 2-2-1 lineup or something, but the thing about Quick Growth Extract is that it randomly selects the evolution Pokemon. So it's really not something we want to use with split evolutions because there's no guarantee it's going to choose the correct one. But it does pull one out of your deck, I believe. So like if we have a particular Venusaur in our hand, but one of them is in the deck, then we can guarantee that it's going to be used with Quick Growth Extract. If not, we'll just use the one in our hand. So it's not that inconsistent, but keep in mind, I honestly do think we're just going to play Mega Venusaur like we're playing Decidueye EX, and it's just going to be kind of an upgraded version of it. It's different in the sense that it doesn't deal bench damage. That is sort of one of the biggest deals of Decidueye, but you know, at the end of the day, does it really matter, right? It doesn't, in any matchup, does it matter? Because we're just going to tank damage. We're just tanking damage and we're just hitting for 120. You know, with the poison, it's going to be enough to KO a lot of different Pokemon in the game, or to KO basically anything in the game. So, you know, I really like Mega Venusaur. And again, I honestly, the more I thought about playing it, the more I realized that it's really not worth counterplaying Charizard or, you know, teching cards in our deck to beat Charizard. In fact, maybe it's not even worth playing the one copy of blue. It's just one of those things you got to deal with. But against Suicune and Greninja, again, just like Decidueye this past season, I think it has a ton of potential, and it's actually going to be extremely consistent with Quick Growth Extract, right? It's going to be turn 3, it's going to be absolutely blasting you with Mega Venusaur, and there's really nothing you can do about that, and I find that to be pretty funny, I'm not going to lie. So shout out to Mega Venusaur. Again, maybe we play it with Oricorio, maybe you play it with Lilligants. I honestly feel like the best way to play this deck is to just make sure that we're beating Suicune and Greninja. I think it's fairly likely that that Suicune is a top deck in this new metagame still, so I think Mega Venusaur, to be fair, is probably just going to have the opportunity to take the place of Decidueye this new season. Like, that's how I'm kind of envisioning Mega Venusaur, if I'm being honest. Like, that's how I envision this card. And it's going to be hilarious. It's going to be super funny to see, you know, Suicune only be able to hit it for 60 damage, and then we're just going to heal Lily. We have 240 HP. We're just smacking you for 120 over and over again. It really is kind of going to be like an unwinnable matchup for Suicune, which is pretty funny. And Ivysaur with Leaf Cape, it's way more tanky than a Dartrix is, right? So for that turn where we are going to be attacking with Synthesis, we can basically live anything. Like, even like Suicune can't even KO with a full board state, right? With 130 HP. That's pretty funny. I do find that to be interesting, right? Ivysaur has 100 HP. Is kind of a crazy, kind of a crazy buff here. You go 60 from 100 to 240. A lot of HP on the board, especially with Leaf Cape and Lilies. And that's honestly how I'm playing Venusaur. Again, maybe you play like a 2-1 lineup. I don't know. Just look at your Decidueye list, cut a couple of cards for quick growth, and then swap your Rowlet, Dartrix, Decidueye line for Venusaur, and honestly, that's probably how I would just play it. I'm not gonna lie. You could play like one Venusaur EX, but the issue with Venusaur, if we're being honest, and playing like Venusaur EX in the deck, is that, you know, there's really no way to set up multiple Venusaurs, because like late in the game, if Venusaur EX goes down, we'd have to go back into an Ivysaur and then synthesize to get those 4 energies onto Mega Venusaur, and I just don't really, you know, feel like that's gonna be a comfortable thing to do, especially late in the game. Your opponent's probably going to be able to deal with the Ivysaur. So it's not really a strategy I would employ. Honestly, I would probably just do something like this. If you wanted to run like a 2-1 lineup, then maybe just cut the blue from your deck, and there you go. You know, you're losing to Charizard probably. Like, that's just the reality of it. Maybe you can get the first attack off and then potentially put him asleep, but, you know, it's just not a matchup that I think you're probably going to do very well into. You're going to have to accept that, you know what I mean? Anyway, I like Venusaur. I actually think it's really strong, and I think it'll operate similarly to Decidueye. Now, I don't have a deck today for Blastoise, and that's just because I think that everybody knows how we're gonna play Blastoise, which is with like Mantykes and Manaphy's, and then with Misty, and it's just a high roll deck. And I'm not very interested in Blastoise. They didn't give us any really new interesting water type tech cards, so we're not gonna talk about Blastoise today. Just envision what you think a Blastoise deck would be, and that's what Blastoise would be. Unfortunately, you're still going to lose to Charizard. So it's not something I really believe in very heavily myself. But anyway, the next deck we're going to talk about is going to be Lopunny. I went back and forth with Lopunny because I really do like it. There's so many different things that we can pair with Lopunny because, to be fair, fighting does have a lot of cards, but none of them feel that good. So the thing with Mega Lopunny here is that you definitely want to play Will. It's your primary attacking option, but what are we going to pair it with? It's double fighting energies, which means that we can't really play anything else with it other than maybe things like, Elekid, Tyrogue, and Chingling, like the baby Pokemon that do attacks. Like you can play those Pokemon with Mega Lopunny, but then it's like, do we really want to? You know what I mean? Like it's one of those deals. So I kind of elected to just play Hitmonchan here and then play X-Speed. Again, we're not teching. There's nothing in this deck to beat Oricorio. So that's the only thing that, you would change around. And it's not that hard to change around the deck in order to do that, right? Because you could just play one of the non-EX Lopunnies. You know what I mean? And then there you go. And this is also a coin flip card, right? So luckily you can just sort of play this pretty easily and then not really struggle into Oricorio because we have Will to one-hit KO Oricorios. And there you go. Honestly, because if we wanted to be able to deal with Oricorio consistently, if that was really what our deck was built around, then maybe we play like Fighting Coach Lucario or like Tyrogue Giovanni or something like that. And that's just not stuff that I think really fits that well with Lopunny, if I'm being honest. So honestly, I've just played like double Hitmonchan, double Baneri, and double X-Speed. And my entire strategy here is to just, punch people in the face with Hitmonchan early in the game and then kind of come into Lopunny later in the game and just hopefully sweep with Will Lopunny. That's literally the strategy here. I don't think there's really any reason to go too far outside the box. And that's just how I feel. You could even play like a 1-1 lineup here and then keep the Serena because Serena is going to be nice to kind of search out for the Lopunny, right? So, maybe you just do that. Honestly, I think the opportunities here are a little bit limited. There's really not much you would do here with Lopunny. Again, there's some opportunities to play things like Elekid, right, and deal bench damage to lead off instead of going into Lopunny, and then maybe you play Cyrus with it. That's kind of fine, but you can't really Cyrus and play Will in the same turn. You could play Tyrogue, right, which is doing 20 to the active, which is kind of cool. But the issue here is that if you're going to play Hitmonchan, you don't really want to play any of these single prize Pokemon because then you're playing, you have a prize lineup that's much easier to win the game, right? If you're playing Hitmonchan and Tyrogue or Elekid or Chingling or whatever, then that's going to be two Pokemon that you can attack to KO the game that are much easier KO'd. And that's sort of the difficult prize thing with Mega Lopunny. You kind of want to stick to two prize Pokemon and then Mega Lopunny so that they don't have the ability to just KO, an Elekid or a baby Pokemon or whatever to win the game. So keep that in mind. All three of these are decent options. You could play a daycare deck version of Mega Lopunny, but honestly, I would just play Hitmonchan and then tech in a double kick Lopunny for Oricorio. And that's about it. And into basically anything else other than Oricorio, it's not going to be that bad. Lopunny does have confusion. So I think the same thing with Venusaur is that oftentimes it's probably just going to come down to whether or not that status condition sticks when you're going up against things like Charizard, because Charizard's just going to KO you and then the game's over. So our really only counterplay to that is to force in Charizard with Hitmonchan and then hopefully Mega Lopunny can confuse for a turn. That's literally it. That's the strategy. I like Mega Lopunny. I do. I think it's definitely a good card here. We're at 19 cards here right now, so maybe we just play double Mega Lopunny, I think, maybe, or something, or maybe we play, I don't know, a second copycat. You can change around the things in general, but honestly, I think simplicity is best with Mega Lopunny. I think just playing two basic Pokemon, Hitmonchan's the one you want in the active, and then just play double X-Speed in case you lead Baneri, double Copycat, double Sabrina as well, which I do think Sabrina pairs pretty well as sort of an aggro archetype with Hitmonchan. But maybe we play one Sabrina and one Cyrus, right? Because Hitmonchan's not going to be KOing that consistently, so maybe we just do something like this, right? Just as an example. I think things are a little bit open for Lopunny. Again, you can play Fighting Coach Lucario, you can play Tyrogue, you can play all of that different stuff, but at the end of the day, your deck's going to be much less consistent, even though you would be able to deal with Oricorio pretty well. I guess that's sort of the upside, right? You guys test it out, let me know what you think, but honestly, I do think Lopunny is kind of meant to just be paired with Hitmonchan. You can play Rampardos, theoretically, but then you're probably guaranteed to lead Baneri, or much greater chances of leading Baneri, and that's not really something we want. I guess you could play double XP, but then you're playing Fossils, Rampardos, and Rare Candy, and you're taking up a lot of space in this deck. So I don't really love Rampardos with Lopunny in general. I do like Lopunny. It's just, again, we don't have that many great options to pair with it. That's the reality. So shout out to Lopunny. Comment down below if there's anything else you would do with these deck lists differently. Let me know. I would love to hear it. Next up, we're going to talk about the two new Lightning Magnezone decks, which I think can be played in two different ways. And this one here is going to be sort of my revised version of Oricorio Magnezone, which is going to be playing the new Mirror Shot Magnezone, which we've talked about ad nauseum. Really broken card, although it's not one at KOing Greninja. That's the only downside here. But we are going to be playing one copy of Clement to search for our Magnetons a little bit more consistently. And then I actually just paired in double Team Rocket Grunt, because like, why not? I don't know if this will ever be meta, but I figured why not? Like, it's a full lockdown control deck with immunity ability, so why not just play Team Rocket Grunt and further annoy our opponents? I figured it would be pretty funny. But you could just play a very standard Oricorio Magnezone deck from last season, maybe swap. You could even do like a 1-1 lineup of Magnezone if you really were kind of afraid, right, of Greninja. So you can play like a 1-1 lineup. I do think Clement's just making this deck better. In general, everything else is going to be kind of the same. So I think if we were to match this to like a previous version, you'd just like cut the Rocket Grunts, you'd play like one more Giant Cape, and then you'd probably play like a second Copycat or something. And there you go. You know what I mean? Like that's a very standard baseline deck. And honestly, you could even just not play Mirror Shot if you wanted to just play the old Magnezone. The one copy of Clement is making this deck exponentially more consistent, not to mention the new Magnemite, which is going to be able to KO like baby Pokemon for 1 energy, which is a big deal, in fact. Definitely not an insignificant thing here. So, we've changed the deck around a little bit. To be fair, I like the Mirror Shot to be paired with Oricorio. I do. In general, I actually think this card is better in almost every scenario other than not being able to KO Greninja. That's really it, But it lives an attack from Greninja. Thing's got 150 HP. Kind of crazy. But anyway, very standard stuff. There's nothing too crazy here. However, the other version of Magnezone that has come out that I actually really like is going to be Aggressive Magnezone. This is going to be Aggro Mag, which is actually just pairing Magnezone with Helioisk and Double Clement and Double Clement's Backpack. And Helioisk is an underrated card, quite frankly. We are going to be playing the old Magneton still. I don't think it's worth it to play the new Magneton. Realistically, I think we just play this one because it's going to be able to, allow us to commit energies to Helioisk, just like we do with Oricorio. But the thing here is that Helioisk does big damage. And again, guys, Suicune Greninja. Helioisk, especially with Clement and Clement's Backpack, is going to be massively consistent, extremely fast-paced, and will be able to KO Suicunes very, very easily. So do not sleep on like Aggro Helioisk Magnezone. Again, like you could just change out the Mirror Shot, but I actually like Mirror Shot. It buys some time. I think the effect is inherently broken, so I think it's worth playing. The cool thing about this deck list is that we're playing double Clement, which is going to pull both Magneton, Helioisk, and Clement's Backpack out of our deck. So this is literally just a draw 2. So we can play double draw 2s, double research, and a Copycat with Pokeball. This deck list is going to be so fast-paced, so aggressive. It might be so strong. It might be so fast-paced and aggressive that it might actually be better than Oricorio right now. So, I think that you can play this Magnezone archetype in 2 different ways. This Oricorio build, I think, is probably going to be better into Charizard. However, this Aggro Lightning deck, I actually like a lot better into Suicune and Greninja specifically. So, the cool thing about Magnezone right now is that you can build it 2 different ways, whether you want to play Helioisk or Oricorio, and both are going to have phenomenal opportunities in the metagame to beat some of the strongest meta decks. So again, I think Lightning got a massive buff. The Clement package is a massive deal. It's going to be one of the biggest things contributing to, I think, the changes of this new season with the inclusion of Charizard. And I think that's all a really, really big deal. So shout out to this. I love the Helioisk. I really do. In fact, this might be like this could be like a legitimate meta strategy. And it's all single prize Pokemon. This deck is going to be so annoying to deal with. Like it's going to be nuts. Like Magnezone's going to be stunning you. Helioisk is going to be hitting you for like 140, 160 sometimes. It's going to be a ton of damage. And think about how consistent, how fast paced this deck's going to be with Clement, Backpack, Helioisk, Magneton, just pulling all of these Pokemon out of our deck. It's going to be so aggressive, so consistent. I love it. I love this package that they built from the new Magnezone. Kind of wish we got a Magnezone EX, but this Magnezone is broken. So they kind of popped off with it a little bit. Next up, we've got some more interesting archetypes here, things that, might not be necessarily like top of meta, but they are, I would consider like off meta or like fringe meta, tier 2 type quality decks that we got new here in Crimson Blaze. So let's showcase them. The next one here is going to be Ariados Territory Trap with Whimsicott EX. This is a real strategy in my mind. Again, Lycia works with this deck, which is really cool. So this is yet another deck that we can kind of use the Lycia core with, which I love. So Spinnerack here and Cottony, both 50 HP Pokemon. Lissy is going to be able to pull them out of the deck list. Ariados here is a stage 1 Pokemon that increases your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. And then Whimsicott here for only 2 energies is also a stage 1 Pokemon, which does damage based around your opponent's Pokemon's active Pokemon's retreat cost. That was a lot of words. But again, they're all stage 1 Pokemon. They're all grass type Pokemon. We have Leaf Cape. We have Quick Growth Extract. I love it. I really, really do. I think that this deck list has a ton of potential. Now, you might be asking, well, what about Oricorio? Or are we just going to use Ariados? Kinda, yeah. I mean, you could play the Celebi. I think that we're playing one Celebi specifically for Charizard, but you might not even need it. It's interesting. It's sort of a weird thing here, but Celebi plus red, KOing Charizard. Hello, the Celebi red combo. To be fair, double Ariados Whimsicott with red, I think honestly might be able to KO a Charizard or force it to KO itself if it attacks. So this is an archetype that I would not sleep on. The deck might change a little bit, but again, I love the Lyssia package. We saw it with Altaria. It was really the only deck that utilized it last season. This is a perfect example of that. So Lyssia plus Quick Growth Extract is going to make this deck super fast paced, and very, very, very consistent, along with double research and copycat. So I do not sleep on this list. Do not. It's one of my favorite sort of fringe meta picks for this new season, and it's grass type. So again, I think Quick Growth Extract is broken. This card is really good. The more I talk about it, grass has a ton of support, an absolutely insane amount of support, quite frankly, with Quick Growth Extract and Leaf Cape. I mean, every grass type deck is going to be phenomenally strong. And against, and into anything other than Charizard, Whimsicott has 170 HP with Leaf Cape. So that's, nothing to scoff at, especially when it's absolutely smacking people. It does 40 damage and 30 more for every energy. So even if your opponent has a Pokemon with a retreat cost of 1, if we do get double Ariados out, which again is pretty consistent with Lyssia Quick Growth Extract, we're all of a sudden hitting for 130 damage. Like, that's not, and if they have a retreat cost of 2, then that's 160. Like, it does stack very quickly, especially into some archetypes. So do not sleep on Whimsicott. I really, really love this. It's a low energy attack cost deck, a really, really fun deck. Going second, this deck's going to be crazy. It's going to pop off on you. It's just going to be Whimsicott doing insane damage. Really fast paced, really aggressive, all stage 1 Pokemon. Utilizes all of the new cards really, really well. So I really am excited about this. I mean, I am. I love it. When I saw Ariados, I was like, this card's not good. And then somebody in the chat on the live stream was like, yo, Whimsicott. And I was like, oh, no way. So yeah, they did. They gave us a real Whimsicott package here, and I love it. So shout out to this deck. I might be playing grass this season, honestly. I might be playing grass this season. Next up, though, is also going to be Exeggutor, because here's the thing. Sorry. Exeggutor is a good card. 190 HP with Leaf Cape. We're not playing Leaf Cape in this deck list, but theoretically, it's pretty tanky. Also a stage 1 EX Pokemon, right? With a 1 energy attack cost, so it works very, very well with Quick Growth Extract. This is going to be an aggro Exeggutor deck. And Exeggutor it's something being slept on for sure. 1 Chingling in here, as well as 1 Celebi, and guess what, guys? Guess what? It's Mew EX. This is a throwback deck. This is a throwback from like literally a year ago when people used to play aggro Exeggutor with Mew EX back because Charizard was relevant. So literally, let's bring it back. Charizard is back. Why not bring back Mew EX and pair it with Exeggutor now buffed with Quick Growth Extract? I love it. I really do. I love this. I think it also has potential. These sort of aggressive grass type decks are really, really cool. So I wanted to show an Exeggutor deck. I think Mew EX fits very well with it, mainly because it only has a retreat cost of 1, or sorry, an attack cost of 1. And of course, it has a lot of HP. It will be getting bodied by Whimsicott, coincidentally, with the retreat cost of 3. But maybe we go first and we just KO them before they can evolve. You know what I mean? There's some opportunities there. Definitely pretty cool. But shout out to Exeggutor. Celebi, by the way, with 40 is going to actually deal some pretty decent damage to even stage 1 Pokemon that have like lower I guess HP Pokemon that are basics. I don't know. A double Sabrina, because we want to push out those Pokemon. We want to target our opponent if they're building up something on the bench. Copycat, red card, double Rocky Helmet. It's got potential. It really does. Even against Charizard, we can just kind of park Chingling in the active and then just attach to Mew EX and be like, hey, what are you gonna do? Between Mew EX and Celebi, like this deck can take down Charizard pretty easily, and I absolutely love that. Maybe we play like 1 red in here somewhere, I don't know. But I wanted to make an Exeggutor deck, and it was a great example, a great time here to swap in Mew and see what Mew can do in this new season. It's been literally like almost a year since Pokemon did enough damage that KO'd themselves. Charizard is sort of the return of that, so Mew EX here coming in to be the pretty you know, significant counterplay to Charizard, if we're being real. So shout out to Exeggutor, shout out to Mew, pretty cool deck list. Lastly is going to be probably the most meme deck here. It's like the wild card, is going to be Reuniclus, rather. I always say it wrong. Reuniclus. This deck list is full meme. This is a full meme deck, but it is pretty funny, so I wanted to showcase it. I think Reuniclus is probably meant to be played with Gardevoir, and it did give me, again, a throwback opportunity from a year ago to play Mythical Slab. Do you guys remember Mythical Slab? This is an item card that is hilarious and almost never saw play, but when you're playing a deck list like this, which is playing, you know, double stage 2 psychic type packages here, you know, with rare candy, then why not play Mythical Slab? Between Copycat May and Mythical Slab and researches and Pokeballs, like basically we're playing Pokemon, and then every card in our deck is to find and draw out Pokemon. So this is actually a deck that's going to move pretty quickly. You know, Ralts and everything else has a retreat cost of 1. Reuniclus, the issue with it is it's only dealing 90 damage, right? But with 3 energies attached, all of a sudden we have 180 HP, and we're healing for 60 every turn with double attachments from Gardevoir, potentially healing for 90 HP every turn if we have double Gardevoirs, right? So it's gonna be a big Pokemon. It's gonna be kind of annoying to deal with it. If Charizard takes too long, Reuniclus is actually going to be able to live an attack from Charizard, which sounds hilarious. You're still going to lose because you're only dealing 90 damage, and that's, I think, the only downside to this deck. You do beat Oricorio pretty easily, but yeah, the 90 damage is pretty suspect. You're probably not going to win games hitting for 90, but it is a pretty fun deck list, so I wanted to showcase it in today's video. Shout out to Reuniclus and this funny infinite increase package here. You could play Lily and whatnot, but again, I didn't put too much time thinking about how to play this deck other than I was like, oh, we can play Mythical Slab. I wouldn't recommend this, but it is pretty funny, so I wanted to go ahead and showcase it to you guys in today's video. No Steelix deck. No, we didn't do a Steelix deck. We didn't do a Blastoise deck. To be fair, I didn't feel very confident in anything I had built for either of those archetypes. So, you know, I guess I think the solo battle Steelix plays the new Probo Pass, and honestly, I think the Blastoise solo battle deck is playing Manaphy and Vaporeon, which, believe me, is that's not a great strategy. But maybe there's better ways to play those Pokemon. We'll have to see. You know, Steelix is not a bad card. It's just I don't know really how we should play it. So I don't know. But anyway, that's today's video. That's 8 new meta decks that are definitely really strong that I would recommend you try out. Maybe not Reuniclus. Maybe not Reuniclus. I did want to just throw it in the video. But everything else here I really love. I love Whimsicott Ariados. I absolutely love this aggro lightning type deck. And I absolutely love some of the new Lopunny strategies. I love Venusaur kind of replacing Decidueye. And again, Charizard's going to be an absolute menace. So I think that this set was really fun. And we'll have to see how some of these new strategies interact with some of the older strategies and decks from last season and what this new metagame looks like. Again, if you guys want to be a part of the meta progression and you want to participate in the largest weekly Pokemon Pocket Tournament series, go ahead and play in PMPT 13. Listen, ranked is not coming for another 2 weeks. We get another 2-week break without ranked battles, so go ahead and play in the weekly tournament series. It's the only best way to compete in Pokemon Pocket right now without ranked battles. So over the next 2 weeks, you should definitely go and play in the Pocket Bats tournament. I would heavily recommend it. That's the video today. Another 30-minute banger, but you know what? We're popping off, and I'm super excited with all of the new cards. And hopefully the timestamps work for you guys in today's video. It was a bit of a rant, but I have so many things on my brain, and all I want to do is play the game, test out the decks, analyze the metagame, and then just speak my mind here on the channel. And that's what this is all about. You know what I mean? I know my channel is probably not for everybody, but hopefully some of you guys found this video interesting because I love it, and I have a good time talking about this stuff. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Let's get out of here. Peace out, guys. Have a good one. Like and subscribe. Let's get to 50,000 subscribers. And yeah, man, that's it. I don't know how to end videos. All right. Bye, guys. Bye.